Okay, so where I'd like to start is coming at you as a chief judge. It always amazes me the number of people that show up not knowing the rule book, and the number of points that they give away simply from stupid stuff that if they had read the book, they would know what is expected of them and not expected of them. A good example, over the past few years, we've seen any number of competitors, I've lost count, of people that begin their sequence out of the box, fly a few figures, finally end up finding the box, sometimes not, and then wonder why they have this string of zeros at the beginning of their sequence. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask all of you, do any of you understand the rule that just got broken? Okay, I got one person nodding.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I got a few people nodding. Okay? Until you get some portion of a figure inside of the box at the beginning of the sequence, they're all zeros. Okay? Or breaks and restarts. Okay? Let's say that you have a sequence that you're flying, and you take a break. You're going to be doing an inverted spin. And you take a break before the spin because you realize you're too low. And you come back in and do your wing wave and roll inverted and then do your spin. Yeah, I got one person shaking their head. Okay, how many people now know what rule just got broken?
Once you wave wave, you started your routine.
Exactly. Once you wing waves, you started your routine. You have to do the half roll and then turn inverted, or else you get a second interruption penalty. Okay? Now, where this is especially important is strategy. So, the way that the penalties for breaks and the penalties for outs are set up, at what point are you better off taking a break than continuing to fly outs? Anybody?
Depends on what category you're in.
Yeah, it does to some extent. However, there's kind of a rule of thumb there.
Sportsman, you want to take that break immediately because it's the exact same as an out.
Exactly. Okay? But now how about an intermediate? Okay? Are you better off flying outs or taking a break? And the fact that people are just kind of looking at me says, you don't know. This is stuff that you have to know. In intermediate, if you're going to have any more than one out, you take the break.
One more out.
Yeah, one more out. 2 outs is more expensive than a break in intermediate. How about advanced?
Same ratio.
Same thing. How about unlimited?
Same ratio.
No, and 3 to 1. 3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Yes, the breaks are so expensive in unlimited that you actually want to keep going until you're going to have 3 outs in a row.
And so an out, 2 outs is equivalent to 1 break.
2 outs is more expensive than 1 break in intermediate and advanced, and they're equal, so you might as well take the break in sportsman and position yourself to better present to the judges. So, basically, in just about anything except unlimited, take the break. Okay? Because if you're going to fly the one figure and you can get back in the box from the one figure, keep going. Otherwise, take the break. That's a more accurate way to portray it.
I can give you the numbers.
Go for it.
So there are no outs in primary. So you take the outs. As long as you just keep taking them, because you know if you don't need the interruption for altitude,
keep on going.
Or if you're completely in the next county and you don't want to be in the next county, sportsmen, they're equal. So if you're already out and your next figure is going to be out, you might as well take the break and reposition yourself so you can fly better with the rest.
More than that, there are only 5 shots.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're flying a 10K figure, whoops, 10K isn't it?
Yeah.
That's 100 points.
Do not ever change the shape of a figure to save an out.
To save an
out.
In sportsman or intermediate.
We're all going to talk more about that.
Take the break, go away, get energy, get position, and do a good loop.
Intermediate, it's a 10 for an out and 15 for a break. So, yeah, take 2 outs or take 1 break to save 2 outs. Advanced, it's 20 for the out and 50 for an interruption. And unlimited, it's exactly 3 to 1. It's 30 for an out and 90 for an interruption. So, okay?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So, I know I went to judges school. You know, I've been judge assisting. I kind of sort of know the rule book, but in the heat of battle, I kind of forgot this. I flew 6 figures out.
Out the back. You weren't like this or this. You were out the back.
Out the
you
back.
were just barely out the back.
Yeah. So afterwards, when Dave's like, you know, you could have taken a break. I'm like, oh yeah. So darn it, I forgot. So I think it's good to be exposed to these concepts more than once.
Yeah.
So this is good.
And while we're talking about positioning, I want everybody to put your head back as far as it'll go. Don't look at me. Put your head back as far as it'll go. Now put it back 15 degrees further. Okay?
Right.
Do that all day long. And imagine the sun is in your face. And you're trying to see a little dot in the sky. And you're trying to look for 5-point variations. Okay? Now look this way. Doesn't hurt. And you're 55 years old, right? Don't ever.
And then trying
This
to
is-
carry a big, huge
Yeah.
video camera
Yeah.
and trying to find
So-
that little dot.
On the very top of my pet peeves, things that I use the rule book and my discretion as much as I possibly can to penalize a pilot for, will be somebody that comes into the box to start a sequence directly over the judge's head.
Oh.
Because they're high, they're right over you, they could be anywhere else. They haven't been blown by the wind there. They chose to put the plane right there. And my exact words are to my assistant is, remind me to give them a 1 for positioning so that I don't forget as they're going through, because it's just stupid. You can't see the shape. You've got that whole box to present this thing better, and you could have been anywhere else in the time zone. You could have, and you put it
in the time zone.
directly over the judge's head. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that.
Yeah, all other things being equal, you are better off in the back of the box than the front of the box because the judges are trying to look at you like that. It's just
Now,
like
if you
simple.
wing wag in and you realize, whoops, I'm in the front of the box, you can just fly right through the box, don't do a figure, and not take a penalty.
No penalty whatsoever for that.
Yep, because the definition of a figure starting is
The first time you break off of the line, right?
of the horizontal.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
In fact, as a case in point, Beth did this yesterday for me out in Borrego, and she didn't like her positioning, and the first figure is a pole to 45 or whatever it is, and she just kind of pulled up as a...
Because I learned, because I did this, I did this.
Her
This is
intent was
another
to fly
mistake
through
I
the
did
box
the
and
same-
reposition, but
I
she started with the kind of climbing, pulling turn. A lot of judges would say she started the figure and could zero her for that.
So the same concept where I had
get
six
through the
six
box.
outs, I started in another time zone.
Yeah. So my
And-
point
and
is,
so I was-
if you're gonna do this, make it absolutely clear that you are not gonna start that figure. If your figure starts with a pull, do your wing wags and roll out. Don't start
So
with...
do you do a
maybe-
second set of wing wags? So you wing wag in and you realize you're an idiot, and then
Yeah.
you wing wag a second time?
No, you just go right
Or
through the
you
box.
just
go
go
right
right
through
through
the
the
box.
box?
All the way
Totally
through.
legal.
But
Yeah.
you have to wing wag on your re-entry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would just go straight through the box, and when you're well out of the upwind side of the box, make a nice
Circle
turn.
around.
Yeah.
Don't
Park
pull.
around the
Yeah.
entire box.
If your
Yeah,
figure
so-
starts
yeah,
with
so-
a, if your figure starts with a rolling something,
Do a
pull out. If it
What
starts
if
with
you
a
re-
pulling something,
What if you realize it also would have been better to be a little higher?
same thing.
Well,
If
what
your
I was going to say,
positioning
Dave,
is
let me just
wrong
finish.
for any reason.
So the mistake I made is I wing wag way too slow. So I just, by the time my first figure came, I was going like 40 miles an hour less than I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I had no airspeed. So it could be for position, like you said, if you're too close to the front. It could be for airspeed, or it could be for altitude.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
They give you for memory
Whatever.
loss too.
Anything.
For what?
Memory loss.
Where am I?
Any reason. There's no penalty, so do it.
We've all been in the cockpit sitting, I got Dane Bramage. You know, it happens. Okay, here's another one for y'all, and this is strategy, okay? Flying a square loop. Over the top, down the back, pull the horizontal, wing wave to take a break. What's the highest score that figure can get?
0. You have to
gotta
go
draw the
past the
bottom line.
last line.
Exactly, it's not 0,
I'm
it's
gonna apply
missing
for-
a line.
I'm gonna apply
It's
for
not
my
a-
judgeship.
You have, it's neither, you've missed a line, and so completely missing a line is 3, minus 3. The
Or you got
highest
an
you can,
extremely short line.
yeah, extremely short, so you can get no more than a 7. So here's a good example of why you need to know the rule book, is that you need to complete the bottom line on a square loop before that figure is done. And if you wing waved right after, getting back to the horizontal, that's -3 right there. I mean, those are points you're just giving away.
So where's the wing wag in this little
Go
square?
ahead.
He's saying wing wag, but and their point is, with only 2 figures in the arrested catalog, the square loop and the octagonal loop,
Yep.
are the only 2 that the figure has not stopped when you hit wings level.
You gotta go past.
Because this figure starts right here,
Yep.
it stops
Oh,
right
okay.
there.
Past
There.
that.
Yeah.
Past it.
Yep.
Because this figure starts once you've departed.
Yeah.
You have to complete
So
the
to
square.
finish the square loop, this length of line has to be equivalent to this.
And it didn't start at
Because this
the
is
dawn.
your-
this is
Yeah,
your
that's what I was
first-
thinking.
This one defines all other lengths
Yeah,
in a square
okay,
loop,
got
right?
it.
So let's talk about that grading criteria. How many of just hard 1-point deductions can I throw as a judge against this thing? Every radii has to match. Every length of line has to match. It's this one, it's this radius that defines the other 3, and it's this length that defines the other 4. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places I can do just a 1-point deduction for them not being equal. Minimum 1-point deduction for each one not being equal. So do not ever put this in your freestyle. That is like tattooing.
You're guilty.
But no,
Guilty
if you
of not
apply it-
understanding the rules.
It's like hitting the brakes in the middle of a speed trap.
Here's another anomaly of the rule book. This is a family 1 figure. It's a half loop up. Well, it's called a half loop up, but it's not. It's a vertical up, half off inverted.
Half square.
And then
Oh, you can do that.
here's the next figure.
Yeah. If you're going to do it, that's how you do it.
Okay. What are the grading criteria on this one? Does this radius have to match that one?
Yes.
No, it does not. Does not. This is
Family one.
Oh.
Does this, these, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's any length you want, right? How long, if you followed this after this,
It's up to you.
this can be as short or as long as you want it to be. This downline can be as long as you want it to be. None of these radii have to match. And guess what?
Okay.
The K of this is something like 12.
Oh.
The total K of this is 16.
Yep.
It's absurd.
Yeah, but this is strategy. This is knowing the arrestee catalog.
So you can fly.
Which is a different book, you need to get a copy of.
All right.
More for less.
No radii match. This just has to be vertical. This has to be vertical. That's the only grading criteria the judge can throw against this.
So if you're going to, be...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What if you put a square loop on the y-axis towards the judges?
Yeah.
What is the likely outcome in scoring? Will people get mad at that?
You'd get a 0 on presentation.
Why?
Because part of presentation is your responsibility to put the figures so that the judges can see.
Yeah,
them
in the
best
optimum
Okay.
positioning for the judges to judge it. And they use the word optimum for a reason.
Now, what you'd score on the figure is hard to say. The rule book says we can't take deductions off if we don't see
So
an
you
error.
start with a 10.
You start with a 10, and if all we see is a straight line, it's hard to take off. I
So
can
why
tell you,
wouldn't
I'd probably
that-
give you a 5. Just because.
The rules.
Thank you.
On principle.
Now, I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
No, it's
I'm
just
just-
you, Chris, because he hates your guts.
Everybody
else gets a 9.
Because I'm just thinking if you follow the rules, that's part of strategy.
Look, Chris, it's this way, is the judge is a human, okay? There are all sorts of places in the rule book where it says, yeah, you take off a minimum of this, but it's up to the judge's judgment. So if I'm looking at that and deciding, do I take a half a point off or a point, and you do fly something like that, it's going to be a point every time. Because I'm going to be sitting there going grumble, grumble, grumble.
It's the same thing with the loop. Dave was talking about not wanting you right over your head. So someone who flies a loop out in the center box or the back half of the box, the judge can see. That was beautiful. Just put a little tight at the end, that's a 9. Someone who comes in and is right over at my head and does a loop, I see something that looks like, that. It might have been perfectly round, but
I can tell.
that was horrible. I'm giving that a, low score.
Yeah.
Plus knocking presentation.
You judge what you see.
I'm not, you're the judges.
If there's one section of the rule book, let's say, you look at this thing and say, oh, for crying out loud, I can't learn this and, fly. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is entitled Criteria for Judging Aerobatic Figures. Okay? If there's at least only one section of this book that you're going to commit to memory, that's the section to commit. Because that's all about what we use to determine who won and rank ordering the pilots. That's our job.
Yeah.
Rank order the pilots. Okay? This section is what we use to rank order the pilots. So if at the very least, chapter 8, you probably have a leg up on people.
Where is the end? Just show me how a few pages that is, right?
So actually not that,
Yes.
I will show you. So 30 pages. There you go. That's it. That's the whole section right there. That's the essence of judging right there. Okay? Now, how good a job did IAC do in putting this section together? If you go to the SEVA judging manual, what they use at the Worlds, they copied our section here. They said, IAC, you did such a wonderful job on chapter 8. They just lifted it and plopped it down into the SEVA judging manual as is. Okay? That's how important that section is.
Now that said,
Yeah.
those are the objective criteria.
Well, yeah.
Judges are human.
Mhm.
Some
Except
people,
you, Howard.
some people on the judging line will have been doing it for 10 years. Might be a national judge. Other people will just have finished judging school and are having a hard time keeping up, and most will be somewhere in the middle. So there's a mix of people there trying to determine whether you are perfect or not, and it doesn't always happen. Further, there is a bit of illusion involved. You're not supposed to fly the perfect figure. You're supposed to fly what the judges will see as the perfect figure, and it's not always the same. There are issues like parallax. A vertical line right in front of you is pretty clear, but a vertical line at the far end of the box tends to look like it's coming into the box a little. You might want to be, depending on your orientation, a little positive up or negative up. So the judges see it as vertical. And we'll talk about a lot of other things of that ilk. When we get to wind effects, it really comes into play.
When I was somewhat new in the sport, and Marta Meyer was just at the point where she was making the unlimited team. And I'm trying to learn for myself, what determines who's good enough to make the unlimited team and who isn't. We're all hanging around and talking, and Marta comes out and says, I've pretty much figured out that when I fly verticals late in the day at Delano, and the sun is low in the sky behind us, I have to adjust my vertical lines about 5 degrees that way, because the way the sun shines off the airplanes for the judges is totally different than the way it looks in the morning. And I remember thinking to myself, that's what determines whether somebody makes the team or not. It's that level of detailed knowledge of how an airplane presents to the judges that says everything. And that's to echo exactly what Howard is saying, is that this whole sport is all about putting something in front of the judges that's what they think they're looking for. It might not be what they're supposed to do, but if they see what they think they're looking for, that's the art of illusion, and it's what determines who makes the team and who doesn't.
While we're on that, let's say we have a 10-knot headwind. A vertical up. Anybody know the judging criteria? From the ground, does a vertical up look like that today?
No.
No, of course not.
It's the airplane.
Huh?
Look at the airplane.
That's
Zero
right.
lift, I
So,
believe.
Yep, the zero lift axis.
right. So the plane has to be like this, right? But the flight path is going to be like this. Extremely easy for a judge to see this one. Okay?
Even there, won't it even curve a little bit as the plane slows down too?
Yeah, it's not gonna be a perfect line. Okay, so let's talk about the 45.
And most judges will grade this correctly.
That's exactly my
In
point.
my experience, most judges
look at that.
will accept the wind impact as being wind-induced and not a pilot
Yeah,
error.
and actually it's easier on a very windy day because the wind vector is so obvious, it makes it that much easier to take it out of your vision.
Yeah. 45. This is the same thing, right? 45 is a non-wind corrected figure. Your wing needs to be on that 45,
It's gonna be steeper.
right? But your flight path is going to be like this on this day. I guarantee you, you're going to get 10 times more steep ups on this day than you are positive ups on this day in any plane, especially a super decathlon, because it's even worse with the 3-degree angle of incidence. So,
Go a little shallow into it.
Exactly.
well, my advice to the people that I'm coaching on any given day is we look at who's on the judges line. New judges,
Know your audience.
new judges make this error a lot. They're very, very influenced by a flight path on a 45. That's my experience of 15 years of flying and 14 years of judging. Almost even the newbies can see the attitude of a plane on a vertical and are not as influenced by the drifting flight path. So if you've got a bunch of newbies, you want to fly this shallow, so your flight path is more somewhere between these two. So you're not as egregiously deducted. Same for downwind, just the opposite. It's going to be shallow on that day. You want to steepen it up a little bit. But
Let's say you're
if you
concerned.
trust the judges, fly your sighting device. If you don't trust the judges, you have to cheat.
Now, to dovetail into what Dave was just saying, what's the easiest way in the world to figure that out? And there is an unbelievably easy way to figure that out. It's being handed to you on a silver platter. What is it?
Your scores.
Exactly. After the first flight, take a look at your scores. The wind usually doesn't change radically throughout the length of a contest, especially if you got 2 flights on one day. So, if you look at your scores and you see steep, 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 steep,
On
yeah,
upwind 45.
on the 45s like that, click, ding, I get it. I'm going to start flying them a little more shallow, even though my sighting device tells me otherwise, because my audience is, getting tracked.
Not getting
Now,
right.
what if some
It's-
judges give you too steep and the other judges give you too
You're flying it
shallow
perfectly.
for the same figure?
If half the judges
What
are
do you mean,
saying
what
one
if?
thing,
What do you
and
mean, what
half
if?
the judges are saying the
You do it
other
every
thing,
contest.
then you're nailing it.
But you still losing points.
Welcome to ambiguity.
More discussion on the 45, because it gets a lot more complex and depending on the plane. If you've got incidents on the wing, it gets really complicated. But just basically, remember, this is attitude, not line. You often see new pilots, as they slow, they're increasing pitch so that they keep the line straight. Judge is only supposed to look at attitude. You're supposed to hold attitude. If you've got incidents on the wing, very often there's a half roll there. So your attitude with incidents is one here, and it's completely different there. In my experience, the only way to get this right is with a coach.
Yeah.
And you end up kind of almost flying a line, not an attitude. At least that's what I had to do in the Great Lakes. I don't know how the Super D works out.
You had to make it look right.
You have to make it look right to a judge.
Yeah.
With wind correction, I found I kind of try to, what I think is split the difference. I believe almost every judge gets influenced by the wind effect. So if I'm flying where the wind is going to want to make it shallow, I'll definitely fly the line steeper. Not so much the other.
Because you're saying some judges will get it right and most won't.
Most will, things are happening too fast.
Yeah.
Well, and
They're judging what you did here on the roll. Maybe it was a 2 or 4 roll. they're thinking about that.
Now, that'd be a regional contest, but if you go to nationals and the judges are a lot higher quality, maybe that would change, right?
That's a fair expectation.
For the most part, put it this way, statistically, that's definitely the case, because with 7 judges on the line, if you happen to have 1 or 2 that aren't quite, you know, then it becomes much less of a factor.
And it's a matter of physiology, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the wing chord is
Hard to
8
see.
feet at the most on the biggest airplane that's ever going to be in a box, maybe 6 feet. Okay? And it's 3/4 of a mile away to the judge. And that is the only indication of zero lift that we have to go by, is the wing chord. So on a decathlon, when the fuselage is sitting down here at an angle compared to that wing, it's real easy for the judge to see the fuselage much more than it is the wing. So you actually have to train your eye as a judge to look at the fuselage and add 3 degrees. Because it's hard to see
And what
the
does
wing.
the fuselage look like? Is it angular?
Yeah.
Is it kind of bulbous?
The paint job.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
They get
real
affected.
easy. I'm not dissing new judges for not
Well, it's a
following the
skill
rules.
thing.
It's
Skill.
physiology. This is a tiny little dot in the sky, and that's even a tinier little thing in the sky, and it's curved on both sides, so you've got to actually kind of imagine the zero lift axis for most airplanes. And it's so much easier to see the flight path, and it's a real easy trap to fall into. So if people are doing that, change your behavior and fly for them, not fly for the rule book.
There's also a calibration on, I'm just going to say locale. Everybody's 45 is not the same. My history says the Southern Californians tend to like steeper 45s than other areas. I don't know if you
Do you agree with that, Tom?
I'll usually fly 50-degree 45s in Bariga.
Okay.
Just my experience.
I do agree with that, because I'll fly my airplane on the perfect, it's got those sighting things.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's perfect. You can see it. And it's shallow. So I fly it an inch steeper than the calibration says.
Do you know that your sighting device is absolutely right to the
Well,
zero lift axis?
I've had it, so if you get right in front of a judge, right in front of them, they like it.
You put your plane in a hangar and set the wing to
Yeah.
zero lift with the tail up and see if your sighting device is horizontal.
This is
It
easy
could be
stuff.
off. It could
So I have done that.
It might be wiser to be off.
But I'm just saying that it depends on where you
The
are.
only
I'm
way to
right,
figure it out is
Yeah.
with critiquing.
right in front of the judge, right? And I get a lot of coaching from like Bill Stein.
Yeah.
Right in front of him, he likes it. But if I'm out here, he calls me shallow.
Parallel.
That's
I'm like,
parallel.
I
So
was
we were talking about
just
the first part.
perfect a minute
Yeah.
ago. Now you're
Yeah.
talking about an inch difference on the sighting.
Yeah.
And you don't argue with the guy on the ground. You just figure it out.
But there's also is that 45? Is that 45? Is that 45? You probably would have different answers depending on who's
Yeah.
looking.
And the angle of where you are in the box.
All other things being equal, what Dave said is absolutely true, is that you've got this small wing chord and this long fuselage. The fuselage is going to dominate the sight picture, no
And the
matter
flight path.
Yeah, and yeah. So all other things being equal, if you gotta try to do the best you possibly can, start with the fuselage, and get that so the judges are seeing it perfectly. Then go after the wing chord.
Yeah.
We're all human.
And just a tip for writing freestyles, minimize 45s as much as you possibly can, because they are so subjective.
But if you include them, you'll be better flying them if they're climbing into the wind than you will if they're.
Good point. You
Just
design
because
your,
you use less
design
blocks
your-
when you're 45 downwind gobbles up blocks.
Are they better mid-box or at the edges?
It becomes even more subjective when you add parallax to the equation. So that
Yeah.
everything we've talked about is if you're sitting right in front of us mid-box and we can actually see it, all these errors, you put it over there, forget it.